So I just got back from watching Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, and this was one of the most insane film experiences of my life. Not just the movie, but seeing it in the theater that I was in. About 30 minutes into the film, a guy 2 seats along from me just stood up, gathered his things, and just strode out. Just walked right out of the theater, which I've never seen happen before. I've never actually seen that in real life. That doesn't happen in England. I think I know why he left. We'll get to that, but this is a spoiler-free review, so there's no plot here, nothing that you wouldn't know instantly just from looking at the poster. So first things first, let's get this off the table. Did I enjoy this movie? And the answer is, yeah, I think so. There were only 2 bits in the film where I thought this is actually bad. And one of them's like so bad that it's going to be a meme. It's hilarious. Everything else was at least fine, if not very good, and there are still problems. But I think the first thing I want to talk about is how different this is from the trailer. A lot of people were comparing this to Guardians of the Galaxy. The trailer made it look exactly like a Guardians of the Galaxy action comedy Marvel style film. Honestly, it's not really like that. It's not actually a comedy at all. I think the audience that I saw in the theater laughed out loud maybe twice across the entire film. But before I get into the meat of this, I just want to talk about a controversy that happened a few weeks ago. Some people were angry over comments by some of the directors saying they wanted to emasculate the male characters. I gotta tell you, I'm a man. I got a little old PP swinging around down there. This film is like not even slightly in any way like controversial. If you did care about that, the whole controversy is just total crap. It's just click farming from these websites. Don't not see this film for that reason. Which kind of brings us on to the biggest strength and the biggest weakness of this film. This is like the most aggressively engaging movie I can honestly think that I've ever seen. The pacing is insane, especially in the first half. You are skipping around from scene to scene, from location to location so quickly, it is impossible not to just get blown away. You've got a set piece here, and then it skips over, there's a fight scene over here, and then there's a fun conversation here, and then there's a joke that happens over here, and it's just bam, 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 over and over again. It is just hammering you, scene after scene after scene, with no time to stop and think. It is almost genius how engaging this film is. The cost of that, though, is that it has no time for anything else. There's no depth at all. There's no time to flesh out really any of the characters. Even Chris Pine's character, the main character, the motivation is really kind of thin. It's like, okay, he wants to do it for this reason, sure, but there's no emotional impact. I didn't find any emotional impact across the entire movie. It does try to have like an emotional heart. They're definitely going for that. Like, I mean, this is just my opinion, right? Because the guy about 3 seats down at the end of this movie, I heard like a sniffling sound. I looked over, dude was in tears, like snotting all over the place, openly weeping in the cinema. So clearly it affected some people. But to me, this pacing meant that it was a fundamentally shallow experience. When I was watching this, it reminded me of like 90s era action cartoons. Like, you know, the Spider-Man cartoon where they cut the silence out between every line, so it's just a relentless hammering of dialogue all the way through. It's super ADHD editing. It's not that bad in the movie, but it's like, it reminded me of that like onslaught of information, just barely enough exposition, and then just get on to the next scene. One person I watched this with said it was like being told a story by a child. And that was like the perfect way of explaining it. It's like, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then the end. You sort of walk out this movie dizzy. It just 2.5 hours just blast past you. This is why the emotional moments for me just don't land, because we spend at most like 45 seconds. There's a moment where something really emotional kind of happens, and it's about 45 seconds long. You know what's going to happen anyway, and then it does happen, and then you move on to the next thing straight away. This movie is way less funny than I thought it was going to be looking at the trailers. I legit thought, you know, I said it already, Guardians of the Galaxy, I thought it would be like a joke a minute. Not at all. This film basically has one joke that it makes over and over again. I mean, there are more jokes, but it's got one main piece of humor, and that's that someone will say something serious, or they'll say something epic, and then someone else will say something that cuts the tension. Just over and over again, that is the joke.
I find irony is a blade that cuts he who wields it most especially.
You're not a lot of fun, are you?
It's not funny per se, it is just trying to be fun all the way through. Which, if that is the aim, this is like a 10 out of 10 film. Like, it really achieves that in a way that plenty of other blockbustery kind of films fail. But there are more issues than that we gotta break down. Hey there! You know what really grinds my gears? The inevitable reality of death. I am going to die one day, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. Also, I wish I had more options in my D&D games. Wouldn't it be awesome if there was a way to solve both problems? Undoing the inevitable decay of life and unstoppable mass extinction of all species, while bringing something new and exciting to revamp your games? Introducing Mage Hand Press's The Book of Extinction. Resurrect extinct animals right into your game. With fact-checked accuracy and captivating artwork, this bestiary educates you on real-life historical animals and then revamps them into badass creatures for your games. The only thing going extinct is boring games, and also everything else in existence when the universe collapses. But in the meantime, the Book of Extinction contains over 100 extinct animals, megaflora, prehistoric lycanthropes, and new races and subclasses to play in your games. Check it out on Kickstarter now. Link in description. Okay, let's get the obvious out the way. If you play D&D, there are tons of references to the spells people cast and the locations people reference, and there's even some mechanical stuff adhered to, like attunement, and there's a bit where concentration comes up, which was like really cool to see. But even if you know nothing about D&D, that fun vibe is carried across. I think it is successful. I think children will really like this movie. Again, it just moves so quickly that it's difficult not to be engaged. However, that makes it an episodic type film, which kind of means your enjoyment of the movie will be in how much you enjoy each episode inside it. If you enjoy the characters, if you enjoy the lighthearted shenanigans, you will really like this movie, and I think that's why the guy left, is because if you don't connect with that, light, breezy approach, if you were hoping for something more like Lord of the Rings, this movie is not gonna hit it for you at all. But just listing down the stuff, I think most of it hits. The fight scenes, I think, are pretty good. Like, you can always tell what's going on. It's not shaky cam. I always think the best magic fight scene in a film is the Thanos versus Doctor Strange fight on Titan in Infinity War. Obviously, this doesn't reach that level of hype because it's only a $151 million budget, I think, but it is so much better than the Harry Potter style, where two people just stand opposite each other and fire spells. That sucks. I hate those films for action. There's some creative ideas in the fights, and the CG holds up, except for there's a moment with a potato. It's not a spoiler, just there's a bit where a potato is in the film, and the CGI is like PlayStation 1 era Jimmy Neutron type quality. It took me out of the movie, so I kind of count it as a bad thing, but it's so hilariously bad and fake. It's gonna be like a meme. I can totally see the potato being like a thing in D&D now. It is so bad. It's kind of awesome. The standout character was the Paladin, in my opinion. I think they shone every moment they were on screen, like totally awesome. I kind of wish the Druid had got a bit more characterization. I think she suffers the most from the relentless pacing, because they don't really have time to set up deep motivations for people. She's there to have these awesome scenes where, the trailer shows some of them. They do a great job with her powers. There's lots of awesome moments with her, but she's there to kind of provide that spectacle. Her character does not really get much time to shine so much. And that's kind of the same for everyone. No one's character gets super fleshed out. The villain's character is incredibly superficial. Everyone is there just to serve a function in the story, to have this cool moment that the directors want to bring you. Oh, this would be cool, so we'll have the character do this, and that's it. Which is only a shame, because I liked the characters so much. It just would have been nice to see more of them as people than as just objects to communicate this roller coaster movie. I checked out a few reviews of the film on the way back home, and one thing that they all share is they basically say nothing. This is an incredibly difficult movie to criticize. I think it's just because there isn't that much to say. This is like absolutely the McDonald's of movies. A friend of mine, after we watched it, said it was a great hungover movie. Like it was a film that you would be perfect to watch if you were out late the night before, you've woken up, you're like in pieces, you just want to throw something on the TV. It's great for that. It will distract you very well. But again, that really is fine. If the biggest criticism of a film is that it's not some emotional, life-changing experience, then it's probably a really good film. It's incredibly difficult to hate this film because it's so well put together. It is the most technically fine film ever. It is incredibly inoffensive. Apart from that CGI moment and the emotional moments that don't really land, there really is nothing wrong with this film at all. I am fascinated to see if non-D&D fans show up to see this. You've probably seen the marketing, it has been crazy, and if this flops, it would be a disaster for Hasbro, but I don't think it will, and it would be a shame if it did. This movie doesn't deserve to flop. All the actors do a great job, the script is tight, the CGI is good, and yes, it is shallow, but it kind of has to be by virtue of how it's put together. There isn't time for anything else. So one thing that was running through my head a lot during this movie was, if I'd never played D&D before, would seeing this make me want to play D&D? And I would say no, not really. I think if an average Joe who's heard of D&D from Stranger Things blunders into this movie, they might have a really good time, but it didn't make me, it wouldn't make me want to play the actual game. I think they're hoping that someone will go and see this movie, walk out and just drop $100 on D&D products right out the gate. I don't think this quite has that tangible edge that makes you want to play. Compare it to the Lego Movie, where they're both really fun films, but the Lego Movie kind of makes you want to buy Lego and play with Lego again. Seeing this didn't make me want to play D&D, really. I think Stranger Things does a much better job of making people want to play D&D. This just felt like a random fun movie, but it is fun. I just want to shout out something I thought was cool as well, was the character design. I don't think there's any CGI people in this film. All the other races, the Dragonborn, the Tabaxi, are like manually, they're like physical props and makeup. I just like that. I think the cinematography was great. There's a lot of cool shots of stuff happening. They make stuff that might not be that interesting. Everything is a cool moment. I'd give this a 7.5 out of 10. It is a masterpiece of distraction entertainment. It is incredibly well made in that regard. It is aggressively engaging at the expense of everything else. I think everyone involved with the movie did a great job. I think they should all feel really proud. I think there was no element of this film which was technically weak, except for the potato CGI, which again feels like a meme. So I'm kind of glad it happened. If you're just looking to kill 2 hours, this is a fine way to do it. Otherwise, you can just catch it on a streaming service in 9 months. That's totally fine. I'm guessing this movie will do okay at the box office because it is good popcorn entertainment. But because it doesn't really have that like emotional edge, I'm wondering if people will recommend it to their friends very much. They might go in and be like, oh, that was a good movie. But because it didn't make a deep impact at all, it's very surface level, it might not get that word of mouth being like, you gotta see this film. It like changed me. Final thing I wanted to mention, this movie has a mid-credits scene, but not a post-credits scene. So if you're wondering if you can leave the theater when the credits start to roll, if you want to see the mid-credits scene, you got to wait about a minute and then you can leave. You don't need to stick around for the entire thing. But yeah, if you've seen this movie already, keep the comment section spoiler-free, but let me know what you thought and how you think the movie's going to do. And I think this was an interesting development in D&D. I'm curious to see how it'll do and what comes of it. All right, see you next time.